Avid skiff sailor Quentin Rueckert. The St. Lawrence skiff is one of the typical regional boats built in the early 1900s that was used in a variety of applications and could be sailed as well as rowed. Sailing skiffs were built in a variety of lengths from 15 to 26 feet. The model used here is an 18-foot double-ender, which is 44 inches wide at its center. Most skiffs are decked over front and back, have 3 seats, and a 3-bladed folding centerboard. A unique feature to most St. Lawrence sailing skiffs is that they have no rudders, and they're controlled while sailing by weight shifts, sail management, and centerboard adjustments. Skiffs have a sprit sail rig, a traditional low-tech rig that allows for a large sail with short spars, which consist of a 10-foot wooden mast, a 12-foot boom, and a 10 to 12-foot sprit. The sail for an 18-foot skiff is approximately 70 square feet. The sail is laced to the mast and boom, and it's furled around both of these when not in use. The sheet, or rope that controls the sail, runs through 2 blocks or pulleys, which are attached to the boom, with the forward end fixed at the middle seat and the after end free for the skipper to control. To rig the skiff for sailing, the sail is first unfurled. The mast is stepped in the front deck, the boom is dropped and put in place against the mast, and the sprit is attached to the head of the sail. The butt of the sprit is secured at the bottom with a rope sling called the snotter. This snotter attaches to the mast to allow the tension of the sprit, and thus the shape of the sail. Once the main sheet is clipped into the brass ring on the traveler and a rope sling attached to the middle thwart, the skiff is ready to be sailed. The skipper boards between the middle and back seats, takes hold of the sheet, and adjusts the centerboard depending upon how the wind is blowing and how he is planning to leave the dock. The sail would either be pulled in or let out depending upon which way one was going and the direction of the wind. Again, with no rudder, all of the control of the skiff underway is achieved by means of weight shifts, sail trim, and centerboard adjustments. Once underway, there are 5 basics to sailing, and all govern the maneuvering of all sailboats. A skiff can do anything a sailboat with a rudder can do, but with very different techniques. To help in determining wind direction, sailors use a telltale, which is a colored streamer fixed to the top of the mast or at the peak of the sprit. There are 3 basic points of sail and 2 maneuvers in sailing. The 3 basic points of sail are beating or sailing upwind, reaching or sailing across the wind, and running or sailing downwind. The 2 basic maneuvers are jibing and tacking or coming about. When beating or sailing upwind in the skiff, the centerboard should be all the way down. The sail should be pulled in as much as is possible, depending upon the strength of the wind, and the skipper would probably be up on the gunwale between the middle and back seat. To turn upwind, the skipper moves forward a bit and maybe lets off on the sail. To fall off or turn away from the wind, the skipper moves back a little and tightens the sail. Inches make a big difference in skiff sailing.
Okay, what we're doing here is we're beating to windward. And what I'm doing right now is I'm on a port tack, meaning that the port side of my boat is windward. And when you tack, you have the centerboard pushed all the way down. That would be up, and you want the centerboard all the way down. And what I'm doing is I have my weight in as far forward in the boat as I can to try and get the wind to blow the back of the boat down. My mainsail hauled in to try and point the boat as high as I can on the wind, okay? Now, if I want the boat to point higher in the wind, I move forward a little and I let out on the sail, which will allow the wind to blow the back of the boat around and point the boat higher up on the wind. Now, if I'm too high on the wind, what I want to do is move back a little bit and pull the sail in. Okay, so I'm going to try and find that balance between pointing high, so I'm making headway up into the wind, but also maintaining a reasonable amount of speed. The interesting thing about sailing a skiff is obviously there's no rudder. So everything, all the adjustments in your course are made by the adjustments in your weight, like so, and the adjustments to the mainsail, in and out. And what you have to do is constantly make adjustments to make the boat go the where you want it to.
Reaching is the fastest point of sail for a skiff, or for any other sailboat for that matter, as it makes the most efficient use of the wind and sail. Basically, a skiff on any of the various reaches, close, broad, or beam, is sailing across the wind. Usually the centerboard is mostly up. The skipper is toward the back of the boat, sometimes kneeling right on the floorboards, other times hiking out over the gunwale. And the sail is readjusted constantly to help steer the skiff. No skipper stays still for long in a skiff, especially on a fast, sporty reach in a fresh breeze, when it's possible to surf the skiff.
The maneuver I'm going to demonstrate now is called reaching. And right now I'm still tacking, and to go from a tack into a reach, what you would do is lift up the centerboard all the way, and then again, move your weight back in the boat, let the sail out a little, and as you can see, I've fallen off the wind a bit. Now there's three basic kinds of reaches. There's a close reach, a beam reach, and a broad reach. And the first one I'm demonstrating is a close reach. And what that means is I've fallen off the wind and I'm not tacking any longer, but I'm still pointing slightly up into the wind. So this is a close reach. Then if I wanted to go into a beam reach, which would mean that my boat would be perpendicular 90 degrees to the wind, and I'd be sailing horizontally with the waves, I would move back in the boat again like I just did, let the sail out a little bit more, until I was sailing basically right in the trough of the waves. Okay. Then if I wanted to go into a broad reach, what I would do is move back in the boat, fall off the wind some more by holding the sail in until I'm pointed off the wind. In other words, greater than a 90-degree angle to the wind.
When running or sailing before the wind directly behind you is what drives the sailboat. It's almost impossible to sail a skiff directly before the wind, as one can do, say, with a sunfish sailboat. Without a rudder, the skiff's sail runs fully out to one side and tries constantly to slew the boat around. To go before the wind, the centerboard is pulled all the way up. The skipper moves to the back of the boat, often up onto the back deck, and lets the sail out until it's at right angles to the skiff. The only way to steer the skiff going downwind is by sail adjustments. A running skiff has a tendency to turn upwind. To counteract this, one has to pull the sail in some so that the wind will blow the skiff back onto its downwind course. Some skiff sailors don't even bother with downwind sailing, but instead do a series of reaches and jibes to get where they're going.
Okay, now what we're doing is running before the wind, or running with the wind. And in order to do that in a skiff, again, you'd have like on a reach, you'd have the centerboard all the way up. You move, the skipper would move way to the back of the boat, let the sail way out, almost at a 45-degree angle to the skiff, and try to run directly with the wind. Now, a skiff doesn't really like to go directly with the wind. The way that it's built, it wants to either turn up into the wind or turn up into the wind this way. So in order to try and maintain a steady course running with the wind, what I do is what a skipper would do is make constant adjustments in the sail, so that if I wanted it to come off the wind this way, since I have the sail out to this side, I would pull the sail in and force the boat to go, the wind to push the boat over this way. Then when it came over this way, if it came over too far, to my liking, I'd let the sail out a little bit, as you can see, which would bring me back to this course that I want to go on. What you have to be careful when you're running with the wind like this is not to jibe on yourself, which is very, very easy to do.
A jibe is a downwind maneuver which allows one to change direction by rotating the boat such that the stern passes through the eye of the wind. A jibe is potentially the most hazardous maneuver in skiff sailing, especially in a brisk wind. An accidental jibe is indeed the most hazardous maneuver in sailing. To get ready for the jibe, the centerboard is raised all the way up. The skipper moves to the very back of the skiff and begins to pull the sail in. With all the weight in the back of the boat, the centerboard up, and the sail hauled in until the skipper can reach the boom, the skiff will begin to pivot through the eye of the wind until the wind begins to fill the opposite side of the sail. At this point, the boom must be thrown across the boat and the sail let out as fast as possible. This is the critical point in a jibe, since the sail begins to fill with wind very rapidly and carries the boom with considerable force, so much in fact that it can easily tip the skiff over if not counteracted. Once one is around in a jibe, the skipper trims the sail, hull and centerboard as necessary to follow the desired course. Sometimes in a strong wind, it is safer to tack than to jibe, making a more easily controlled 270-degree turn into the wind rather than a 90-degree turn across and away from the wind. A properly executed jibe demonstrates a higher level of skill.
Now if I wanted to jibe, which I can just do right here, carefully, and if I wanted my sail out on the other side, what I could do is bring the boat in, bring the sail in, and then jibe to the other side. And then I'd continue on my course making the same adjustments. Again, I'd pull the sail in to make the boat fall off the wind this way now, since my sail is on the port side. I'd keep just pulling in the sail to make it go this way, because it wants to turn up into the skiff always wants to turn up into the wind. So I have to make it try to maintain a course.
To tack or come about so that one can continue to make progress beating up wind, the skipper pulls the sail in and moves carefully toward the bow of the boat. He or she pulls up the centerboard as they pass by and continues to hold the sail in. When the skipper is all the way forward in the front of the front seat, he turns around and sits down facing backwards. The bow will pivot through the eye of the wind with all the weight forward, the centerboard up, and the sail all the way in. Once through the eye of the wind, the skipper moves back aft, putting the centerboard down and taking a hold of the main sheet again. Once clearly underway on the new tack, all the usual weight and sail adjustments are made to keep pointing into the wind as high as possible while maintaining good speed.
Now, if I want to come about or turn up into wind and go the other direction, what I would do is, if I'm on this tack and I want to go, this is a port tack, I'm going to go come about and go into a starboard tack, what I do is I pull the centerboard up, keep the sheet in, move to the front of the boat and let the wind blow the back end of the boat around. Then I would come back to the back of the boat and put the centerboard down, because I want to go into another tack. Make sure my sail fills on the side that I want it to. And now I'm right back into the starboard tack. And again, now I'm tacking in the other direction, still pointing upwind or beating to windward. And again, you'll see me make adjustments to try and get the boat going the way that I want it to.
Skiff sailing is a matter of learning weight shifts, sail management, and centerboard adjustments in accordance with the wind. It is basic sailing at its best.